What's up, guys? I'm Chad Barnes, and welcome to the channel. Here, it's all about real car talk, from simple fixes to smart driving tips and keeping your ride in top shape. If that sounds good to you, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button, and make sure you watch all the way through. There's a lot of good stuff coming. Let's get to it.
By leaving Russia, the French automaker lost its second-largest sales market, as stated in its own report, the Renault automobile Group made a net loss of €2.3 billion in the first half of the year due to the loss of the Russian market. Local losses can also be considered grandiose. Firstly, hundreds of thousands of car owners found themselves without official brand support. Secondly, according to the Russian Association of Renault Dealers, ADR, the Renault dealer network in our country employs about 11,000 employees who faced the possibility of losing their jobs, and the owners of 150 dealer organizations were forced to restructure their business. How events unfolded in March and April, the French kept changing their minds. They were going to leave, or they said that they would find a way to keep the business. And already in May the company left the Russian market. On May 16, Renault Group signed an agreement with the Ministry of Industry and Trade of the Russian Federation and the Moscow city government, according to which all of its shares in Russian companies were transferred to state ownership. As a result of these transactions, 100% of the shares of CJSC Renault Russia became the property of the Moscow government, and 69% of shares of JSC Avtovaz, owned by Renault, became the property of the Russian Federation represented by FGUP Nomi. The remaining Avtovaz shares were retained by the state-owned Rostec. The future of the dealer network seemed unpromising. The French completely shut down the business, got rid of all assets and stopped assembling and supplying new cars, leaving only stock to official sellers. After that, a series of mass bankruptcies and subsequent closure of showrooms was expected. At the same time, it became known that dealers would retain the right to use the trademark of the French brand for 3 years after the termination of the company's activities in Russia, that is, until the expiration of the warranty on new cars. At the same time, they were released from the obligation to comply with the standards established by the French in terms of quality and organization of work. In addition, dealers were given the right to set their own prices for service, and there was no need for reporting to the manufacturer. The Ministry of Industry and Trade explained that the transfer of Renault's stake to the state will enable Avtovaz to continue working under sanctions. Under the existing licenses, production of the entire line of Lada cars will continue, and the company will also carry out service maintenance of Renault cars on the Russian market. ADR assured Renault owners that repairs and maintenance will be carried out using original parts. These will definitely be original parts, not Chinese ones. Avtovaz has taken over the organization of their supply through Renault. Dealers will receive them from the subsidiary company Lada Image, and that in turn from Renault, said Eduard Markman, who was the president of ADR until July 21. Parallel imports have been banned in Russia since 2009, but they were legalized again in the spring of 2022 due to international sanctions and logistical problems. However, in early August, the Ministry of Industry and Trade removed Renault from the list of parallel imports. This decision is explained by the fact that Avtovaz JSC has fully assumed obligations to provide warranty service and sale of spare parts of this brand. Thus, legal entities now have no right to import original parts and cars Renault without the consent of the French company. Irresistible summer. All summer the dealer network was feverish, and Renault owners had numerous questions regarding warranty, repairs, maintenance and spare parts. There were rumors of bankruptcy of some dealerships. ADR was preparing a class action suit from official dealers to the runaway Frenchmen for compensation of funds spent on advertising and showroom arrangement, but representatives of major law firms agreed on the futility of such a step. Lawyers and dealers explained to the owners that warranty repairs will still be carried out at the expense of the manufacturer. Agreements were reached with Renault to continue supplying spare parts through Lada Image. Eduard Markman reassured that even those parts that fall under the sanctions restrictions will be imported into Russia. Despite the relative clarity in the division of responsibilities between the key players of Renault's Russian business since the beginning of summer, numerous consumer complaints about the lack of original spare parts in service centers began to appear. It is quite understandable that the information about the withdrawal generated an agitated demand for them. problems with international logistics chains, global shortage of electronic components and semiconductors, as well as crisis price growth on world markets did not help to improve the situation either. Stocks were depleted quite quickly, and some dealers even began to offer alternatives in the form of non-original parts. Where to get spare parts from? The fact that all Renault dealers in Russia overnight became unofficial and warranty service obligations were assigned to AvtoVAZ had no effect on the actual capabilities of Lada dealers, who continued to service their own cars. Of course, they were not going to take on an impossible burden, so the dealer network of the French brand continues its work, and warranty operations are carried out by existing dealers Renault. Parts deliveries are entrusted to AvtoVAZ's subsidiary company, which is called Lada Image. The whole dealer network of Renault, according to ADR, has signed new contracts on the organization of warranty repair of cars of the French brand in Russia. And they are signed not with Renault, but just with a Lada Image. The most complicated issues with warranty repair, which previously had to be coordinated with the parent company, will now be solved independently by a particular dealer. The official site Renault stopped working in Russia since August 1st. VAZ for us to find out from primary sources how things are with warranty repair, maintenance and spare parts. We contacted several dealer networks, both large and small regional ones. One of the major Renault dealerships was the first to respond. The manager of the spare parts department told us about the situation with the warranty and spare parts. But a service engineer in response to a question about warranty service of cars told about current difficulties. According to him, the dealer is servicing the cars, but as of the beginning of September, he is not performing repairs under the warranty. The reason is simple: they are not paid yet. The pause, initially set until September 1st, has been prolonged, but the representative of the dealership expressed hope that by September 20 they will resume all types of warranty repairs. As an additional argument, he even quoted a representative of AvtoVAZ: "We will not abandon Renault customers." One more Moscow dealer, RTD Service, on the contrary, confirmed fulfillment of warranty repairs, but noted problems with availability of spare parts. The same situation with warranty repairs in the capital's Avtomir Premier. Other dealers in the regions, such as Tver and Saratov, responded similarly. They assured that problems with spare parts are being solved in a working order. One of the interviewed dealers from St. Petersburg also stated that there are no critical difficulties with Renault service. ADR on guarding the interests of dealers and owners. Confirmation of a moderately favorable future for official Renault dealers was also heard in an interview with Yevgeny Astafurov, the recently elected president of the Renault Dealers Association, which was posted on the ADR website after August 24. At the end of July 2022, a general meeting of the association was held, at which Yevgeny Astafurov, the current CEO of Beshavtocom GC, was elected president. He succeeded Eduard Markman in this position. In his interview, the new president told that ADR has been working for more than 10 years and at all times defended the interests of Russian dealers and owners of cars of this brand. From the very first days after the French left, the association established a dialogue with MAZ Moskvich, AvtoVAZ and Lada Image. These dialogues are now being conducted continuously and on a permanent basis. There are still a lot of difficulties, but the stabilization processes have been launched. In the near future, everything will work more perfectly from the point of view of after-sales service. Yevgeny Astafurov spoke at length about the situation with warranty repair. Everything is working, but the crisis of auto components started long before Renault left Russia. Anyway, in 2020 to 2021 there were certain problems, especially with electronics. This problem exists not only for the Renault brand, but when asked about dealers bankrupted in connection with the situation, the new ADR president was quite specific. According to my information, not a single contract has been terminated yet. Undoubtedly, Renault showrooms start to become empty as cars are sold. So it's up to the dealer to make their own decision and try to get various franchises. This, in fact, no one prohibits. The service contract itself implies that decisions about who to work with next, whether to sell new cars, used cars or something else, are made independently. It is necessary to load these large areas of showrooms and dealerships somehow, so that it is possible to earn money. The course to the secondary market in 2020 to 2021, the secondary market was 4 times larger than the new car market in terms of volume. And since March this year there has been further growth against the backdrop of falling new car sales. The dealer network, according to the president of ADR, retained 12 to 15% of total secondary market sales in 2021, and with a seemingly insignificant percentage, this is a very solid volume of cars. And for dealer networks of brands that have completely left Russia or frozen their business, trade in used cars is becoming one of the main activities in the absence of supplies of new cars. In fact, this was confirmed by most of the dealers we interviewed. Moreover, brand representatives also realize it. The main pages of the official websites of BMW, Hyundai and other brands are already full of lists of used cars available at dealers. And taking into account the current shortage and price growth on the secondary market, those wishing to get at least some guarantees of transparency of the car from dealers will surely increase in the coming years. In conclusion, the departure of Renault from the Russian market has undoubtedly posed significant challenges for both dealers and car owners. As we have seen, many have had to adapt quickly, finding innovative solutions to keep their businesses afloat and maintain their vehicles. From sourcing spare parts through alternative channels to exploring new partnerships, the resilience of the automotive community in Russia is commendable. While the road ahead may be uncertain, the determination to navigate this new landscape showcases the strength and resourcefulness of those affected. As the situation continues to evolve, it will be interesting to see how the market transforms and what new opportunities may arise. In the absence of major international players,